as this video breaks down to, it should be a no-brainer, right?
However, as we've been exploring on the channel, a pro-crypto, anti-CBDC, or central bank digital currency president, like Trump has expressed, is obviously even more bullish for crypto than an anti-crypto, pro-CBDC president like the current administration's agenda that Harris is likely to carry out. And here's some new developments on the topic this week. Trump to launch upcoming crypto venture on Elon Musk's X on this date. He says we're leaving the outdated and big banks behind.
Join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. this September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. We're embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind.
The team behind the venture had earlier outlined its commitment to drive the growth of U.S. dollar-pegged stablecoins, thereby ensuring the dominance of the greenback. It also announced a collaboration with the leading decentralized borrowing and lending platform, Ava. Expectations aside, the project has also generated its fair share of controversy. Reports suggest that Trump might advocate for cryptocurrency-friendly regulations that could favor the project, potentially leading to a conflict of interest if he is reelected. Interesting stuff, to say the least. Here's what we know right now about the venture from mainstream media news leading up to the Monday launch. Barron Trump, at 18, takes the lead as DeFi visionary in new Trump family crypto platform, World Liberty Financial. And also behind the Trump crypto project is a self-described dirtbag of the internet. Chase Harrow, a controversial figure with a history of failed crypto ventures, is behind World Liberty Financial. The project's white paper, obtained by CoinDesk, outlines plans for a credit account system built on the Ava platform and the Ethereum blockchain, aiming to facilitate decentralized borrowing and lending. It also mentions the development of dollar-pegged stablecoins to ensure that the U.S. dollar's dominance continues. Okay, so yeah, this will definitely be a controversial project, and here's another interesting wrinkle to consider. A few weeks ago, I was listening to a podcast, and they brought up something related to this. Here's the deal. As we've discussed on the channel for years now, there is a plan in motion to completely control our lives with programmable, surveillable, and seizable money in the form of CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies. Trump has spoken out against the creation of CBDCs. However, in this podcast, they brought up the idea of similar technology issued by the private sector, like stablecoins, that are just as programmable, surveillable, and seizable as CBDCs. So either way, in the event of a major debt crisis that wipes out most of us financially, there will be a huge effort to onboard us to either a central bank digital currency issued by private central banks like the Federal Reserve, or a stablecoin issued by an entity from the private sector, like BlackRock. So basically, if Harris wins, we get a central bank digital currency, and if Trump wins, it's possible that he takes the stablecoin route, both of which are equally programmable, surveillable, and seizable, which would accomplish similar goals in different ways. Our financial privacy and freedom could be at stake either way. So do you think Trump would try to onboard U.S. citizens onto a stablecoin that will ultimately be programmed to favor the government, Wall Street, and big corporations? Or an open, decentralized stablecoin? Or nothing of the sorts at all? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And we will find out soon enough with the U.S. election right around the corner.
Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rachah Kodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi. Yahweh is the true name of the God of Israel. Yahawashi is who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is Yahawashi. And pretty much, if you don't know, the scriptures, there's a plan to cause a global economic collapse in order to usher in a new system, a cashless digital society that the central bankers control. Now, according to the scriptures, right, 2 Ezra 6 and 9, Daniel the 2nd chapter, it was prophesied that the Edomites, they would be the last heathen nation to rule before the kingdom of heaven is established, because we are still in the time of the Gentiles. So in these last days, these people that you see on the screen, they have a NWO agenda, known as the 2030 agenda. And the point of this agenda is to centralize the whole entire known world, which they already have, but now we're going to step away from fiat currency, which is paper money, cash, commercial banks, and now they want to use digital wallets and programmable digital money that ultimately is going to be programmed on a device and made mandatory, pursuant to Revelation chapter 13. Now, whether it's a stable coin or CBDC, ultimately it's going to have to come from the central bank, because when you conduct buying and selling a recognizable bartering system, you have to get permission from the central bank ultimately. And in this lesson, I'm going to show you how the elite banking families, the Rothschilds, the different bloodlines, I'll show you them in this video, that the whole purpose of them creating Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was to get you onto the blockchain network. Because if you ever sold Bitcoin, it needs about 2 to 3 approvals. So the purpose of Trump coming out with his own cryptocurrency, which, by the way, he was against cryptocurrency. So now what happened? And as you can see, whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, it's going to be the same outcome leading up to CBDCs. Because remember, America has the world reserve currency status. Yes, you have a de-dollarization movement going on. Yes, you have the BRICS nations, mainly Russia, that's trying to dethrone the US dollar. But ultimately, you know, that's going to be a hard thing to do, but it could happen. All right. Now, these countries, they're implementing the CBDC, and as you heard Trump say, America is not going to be left behind. All right. So that's the purpose of Donald Trump's new cryptocurrency that's out or that's about to come out, to maintain the US dollar's dominance. All right. Because ultimately, all countries have to implement a CBDC, which is programmable digital money. And the purpose of this cashless digital society is so that it revolves around the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip implant. All right. So without further ado, let's get into this lesson. Now, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 in the GNT version, which stands for the Good News Translation. All right. Now, here at Great Millstone, you know, we do go into other, translations if it fits the breakdown that we already know through the Holy Spirit. All right. So this is the GNT version, 2 Corinthians 2 and 11. It reads, "In order to keep Satan from getting the upper hand over us, for we, the we is the elect of the nation of Israel, the Satan that is referring to is the Satan-like men that control the planet Earth, which is these people right here, the JEWSs. Like brothers have been saying, if you want to know who's in rulership, try and talk against them and see if you'll still have a platform, see if you'll still have a YouTube channel. Try to debunk these people's lies and deceptions that they have spread over the years, and see if they won't get you assassinated or demonize you on their media, because they control everything, pursuant to Job 9 and 24, 2 Ezra 6 and 9. So we know that the Edomites are in rulership. If you try and talk against these people, what would they label it as? Anti-sin, right? So you can't speak out against these people. Why? Because ultimately they are in rulership, and pursuant to the Bible, their true identity is that they're Edomites, the so-called white man in the sea line. All people in the planet Earth that you see walking around, they come from the seed, which is the sperm of a man. The man has sex with his woman. He puts his seed, which is his sperm, in the sperm fertilizes the egg, right? And that woman nurtures that child for 9 months, and then she gives birth or conceives that man's seed. All right. So men are the progenitors of life according to the scriptures. Now, according to the Bible, after the flood, there's 18 nations that's established after the flood. The chosen nation, which is the seed of the promise, right? The nation that the Most High gave the covenants, that he made the covenants with, right? The nation that he gave the law, statutes, and commandments to, is the nation of Israel, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Our seed line makes up the 12 tribes of Israel. We are the seed of the promise. And Yahweh's blood and sacrifice, Yahweh being who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, his blood and sacrifice is only for our people, the nation that was given the law, to adopt them back to the Father through his blood and sacrifice, beginning with the elect. All right? So now we're under a grace period. We're being shown favor and mercy, right, through Yahweh's blood and sacrifice, to glorify the Lord, to be able to push forth the correct gospel and doctrine in sinful flesh. All right? And the grace period is given unto the elect, right? Because we're in sinful flesh. We can't keep the law, statutes, and commandments perfectly. The scriptures say you break one commandment, you break them all, in James the 2nd chapter. All right? So the grace period is because we can't keep that old covenant standard in sinful flesh. So Yahweh, he's the mediator of a better covenant established upon better promises, like being changed. And that's when the new covenant is totally going to be fulfilled. When the whole nation of Israel steps into that new covenant, and we're perfect, and we're able to keep the law, statutes, and commandments perfectly. But that first begins with the elect of the nation of Israel. That's going to have the privilege of being a part of that first dominion, that first resurrection, being the main governing body. All right? So I had to get that out. Let me jump back, GNT version. This is 2 Corinthians 2:11. In order to keep Satan from getting the upper hand of us, and how will he get the upper hand over you? Through the false prophets that he gave bribes to, right? These men in the nation of Israel, as well as men in like mind like them, these sellouts, these people you see in Hollywood, right? You know, the Nathaniels, the General Yohanas, you know, the Rakar from GOCC, men that have made covenants with the devil. That's how Satan can get the upper hand on you, because they teach false doctrine. They deceive the people. They don't teach a doctrine that leads you to Yahweh and Yahushua. The doctrine that these false prophets are teaching, as well as the Roman Catholic Church, right, the different Christian denominations, the Christian pastors, anybody that teaches a philosophy outside, you know, what our great millstone is teaching outside the scriptures, they're a false prophet. All right? And what Satan will do is he'll use these people to try and deceive our people, to push forth his agendas, right? On the left-hand side, it says, in order to keep Satan from getting the upper hand over us, for we know what his plans are. And we know what his plans are. Why? Because his plans are in the scriptures, as I'm going to show you. All right? So first,
The central banks, this is my last slide, because my 12 minutes is just up, have reacted to the truth coming out. They admit that they've been telling porkies, and now they propose to increase their power. So central bankers belatedly admit, oh, now that you've mentioned it, yes, banks create the money supply. So let's abolish that now. And also, by the way, let's abolish cash. So what should we do? Well, introduce digital cybercurrency that central banks issue and control, and thereby gain total control over all economic transactions, decisions, and the whole lot you've just heard from the CEO of the GDI. So the greatest concentration of central banking power in history is really the bid they're aiming at. That's the central bank's goal. And, of course, digital accounts of dissenters and regime critics could be switched off. It would be very difficult to even purchase necessities. So this is an Orwellian dystopia of total control, the end of any freedoms. That's really what central banks are aiming at. Several central banks have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant, RFID chip, to be implanted under your skin.
There it is.
And why is the sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Oh, universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip. The overarching trend of the 20th century.
now check this out. The digital currency plan. It says roll out the NSA created Bitcoin to get the masses excited about digital currencies and get them on the blockchain. So Donald Trump is aiding in this, all right? It says implement a government digital currency, central bank digital currency, CBDC, throughout the nations. You don't see what's going on? Every single country on earth has a central bank in it. And it's going to be through the central bank how they make the mark of the beast mandatory. Always keep that in mind. The mark of the beast is the RFID chip implant. When you're dealing with buying and selling, you're dealing with a currency. Now, when you watch clips from Aaron Russo and others, like I just showed you, they want the money to be digital so that it can be compatible with the mark of the beast, the RFID chip implant. So that's the goal. That's why all countries are implementing a CBDC, because it's programmable money. What do you do with something that's programmable? Can I hold something that's programmable? No, you got to put it on a device and make it mandatory. That's what gives them control. That's why the scriptures say you're not going to be able to buy or sell. At least you have the mark of the beast, because the currency is going to be on it. That's coming from them. All right. So continuing on, it says initiate a massive false flag, aka what, a black swan event. It could be a cyber attack on the banking system or a power grid, right? That crashes markets and collapses fiats and cryptos, EMP cyber attacks, right? That links up with 1 Thessalonians the 5th chapter, verse 3. Allow the fiat currency system to stay collapsed. So this is what's coming next, all right? This is what we want to look out for. It says, do not recover the economy like in past crashes. This will get people desperate as inflation becomes unbearable. And that is talk about Jacob's trouble. That's when all hell break loose. Then they come in with the solution, which is going to be CBDCs and a mark of the beast. Right? It says, announce that the central bank digital currency will be the replacement for all fiats. So this is what they want. They want to cause a global economic collapse in order to usher in a new system. This is why you have a migrant crisis. This is why inflation eventually is going to get worse and eventually turn into hyperinflation. That's why you're going to have the famines and stuff of that nature, the martial law, the crime going up. So they can implement a new system as the solution. It's just that simple. It says, allow the desperate masses to trade their fiats for CBDCs, right? CBDCs. So even now, right? Now on a so-called decentralized level, you can trade in your gift cards, right? You can trade in cash for actual like Bitcoin. Now they got Bitcoin ATMs. That's not a coincidence. That's called social conditioning. That's called gradualism. Getting people to accept, their agendas in different stages. It says outlaw cash, gold, silver, and other precious metals. outlaw and ban all non-government essential cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, funneling everyone onto the blockchain and into using the CBDCs. It says require embedded RFID chips or biometric identifiers for all transactions to be made with the CBDC. Mark of the beast becomes reality. Refusing it will make you an outcast. All right. Now let's jump back to the scriptures. Right. So let's look at this real quick. The 2030 agenda, which is the United Nations agenda, New World Order. Because the scripture saying in Revelation 3 and 10, the hour of temptation shall come upon all the world. How is it going to come upon all the world? Through the central bank. All right? One world government, one world cashless currency, the CBDCs. It don't matter what name is called in any particular country, it's coming from the same source, which is what? The central bank. That's creating the currency. That gives them control. So if something is coming directly from the central bank and is programmable and digital, if they put it on a device, they can completely control your wages. Right? It says one world central bank. Let's just skip and go down here. It says microchip society for purchasing, travel, tracking, and controlling. All right, so this is their agenda. Continuing on now, NLT, this is Ezekiel 7 and 19. They will throw their money in the streets because we're living in the era where they want to collapse this old system so they can come in with a new system. That's a digital cashless society, right? So you have the de-dollarization going on. You have Saudi Arabia that didn't renew the petrodollar agreement, right? You got the formation of the BRICS nations. You got these nations looking at America, putting sanctions on Russia, and they're like, look, the West has too much power. We need to dethrone the US dollar as the world reserve currency. We need to have America lose its world reserve currency status. So that's what's going on right now, right? So I'm going to read it back in the top NLT version. This is Ezekiel 7:19. They will throw their money in the streets, tossing it out like worthless trash. Their silver and gold won't save them on that day of the Lord's anger. What day? Jacob's trouble, the days of trouble, right? The evil days, as the scripture says. It says, on that day of the Lord's anger, it will neither satisfy nor feed them, for their greed can only trip them up, because that's the stumbling block of their iniquity. When all hell break loose, you're not going to really be able to use other form of currencies, especially during the hour of temptation, because the only recognizable currency, which at that time, it will be the CBDC, programmable digital money, that digital money is going to be on a device that they plan to make mandatory. So you're not going to be able to buy and sell, least you reject the Lord as Israelites, right? You so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, you're the Israelites, the seed of the promise. You would have to completely forsaken and reject Yahweh and Yahweh and worship the God of this world, which is Satan and his physical counterpart, the so-called white man and his seed line, by getting and consenting and saying, yes, I'll get your mark of the beast, I'll get your RFID chip implant so that I can buy and sell. All right? You Israelites that consent and take this mark of the beast, you won't be able to repent from taking this, pursuant to Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 to 11. All right, so you've been warned. When this chip is made mandatory, because they're going to put the currency on this chip and make it mandatory, right? When this chip is made mandatory, do not take the microchip implant, because that's the mark of the beast. And when they make it mandatory, they're not going to say, oh, breaking news, we're making the mark of the beast mandatory. No, you're just going to know according to the scriptures. All right? So now, let's go back. So that's pretty much it with that. So the time is coming where the money is going to be worthless. Proverbs 22 and verse 7. The rich ruleth over the poor. Who's the rich? These people. These people that control the IMF, the World Bank. Right? Let me show you something. Now look at this. This is a New World Order chart, right? And this is proof, pursuing the 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, Daniel the 2nd chapter, right? That the Edomites, their rulership, Job 9 to 24, right? So it says Illuminati royal bloodlines. And who's on top? The Rothschilds, which the word Rothschild, it means red shield or like red child. You got Roosevelt that has a red root to it, Rockefeller, all these names, they have a red root to it because they know that they're the biblical Edomites, according to the Bible, right? And then you got the other families that's there. You got the foundation nations of the NWO, the financial groups, right? Remember, it's going to be through the financial part of what they control that they can make the mark of the beast mandatory through that, right? Because when you read Revelation 13 and 17, I'm going to show you real quick. It says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now, they're not going to be able to buy or sell ultimately because the currency is going to be on the chip when they make it mandatory, the microchip implant. So that's the purpose of the CBDC, programmable digital money. All right? The currency itself is not the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is the actual device at that time that they make mandatory, to where you don't have any other option to buy and sell with. Only the one world currency or the programmable money that's coming from the central bank that's on that device when they make it mandatory. Alright? So that's why the scripture is saying they're going to cast their gold and silver and money in the streets, because you're not going to be able to use it. So now, let's jump back. So as you can see, the financial groups, IMF, World Bank, central banks, Federal Reserve, Bank of International Settlement, the Edomites, they control everything. The JEWSs. Why? Because it's prophesied that they will come back into rulership. They have to fulfill their lot as the Edomites, being in rulership. So now, we can jump back. So back in Proverbs 22:7, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. The poor and the borrower is who? The people in society.
99%.
Under the so-called white man's banking system worldwide. Whether it's Swift bank account, whether it's a bank account in the western part of the world, they control everything. You go to any island or country, there's a central bank there. All you got to do is just go on Wikipedia and type in lists of central banks that the Rothschilds control, and it's going to pretty much name all countries. It's pretty much going to name all travel destinations that people will go to for vacation or where they live at. All right? So it's going to be through the central bank. They make this chip mandatory. And that's how the borrower, which is the poor, is served to the lender. We're subject under their system. We have to buy and sell according to their rules and regulations, how they tell us we can buy and sell. Just like how we're using fiat currency, cash, paper money, using cryptocurrency as well, right? Having bank accounts. That's because they told us we can do it like that under their system. So it's not going to be any different during the hour of temptation, when things is more digital, when society is completely cashless. See, that's the transition that's going on right now. So the rich and the lender is the Edomites, because they control the central bank. All right? I'm going to finish with this in the NLT. This is on Revelation 3:10, because this is the next major prophecy outside of Jacob's trouble that's going to come to pass. This is what we're waiting on. It says, because, Revelation 3:10 NLT, because you have obeyed my command to persevere. This is referring to the believers that have faith in Hamashiach Yahushua, ultimately the elect of the nation of Israel. I will protect you from the great time of testing. The great time of testing is the hour of temptation, when they make the mark of the beast mandatory throughout all countries. It says that will come upon the whole world. How is it going to come upon the whole world? Because all countries, all you got to do is just do your research. All countries have a central bank in it. It's through the central bank, since they control the currency that's going to be on the mark when they make it mandatory very soon, right? That's how it's going to come upon the whole world. It says to test those who belong to this world. So you people that belong to this world, especially in America, you will be a part of the second death, which is thermonuclear destruction, right? So do not take this chip. The scriptures say in Revelation 20:4 that even if we face with death, it's already written that the elect of the nation of Israel will not consent and take this chip. All right? Do not take this microchip implant, or it's made mandatory. Lord willing, you was edified by the lesson. Shalom.
And you can't get any better breakdowns than that of Great Millstone. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth with sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there on the four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Brakatam. So, we've been telling you all along that it doesn't matter which side, Republican, Democrat, Donald Trump, or Harris, they're all the same, and they all want the same thing. I mean, Biden really made it fucking clear in his speech when he says, can a microscopic tag be used to track someone's every movement? And you will rule on that. In other words, the elites are going to rule on that. Mark his words, right? That's a famous speech by Joe Biden. So they're all on the same agenda. Following the orders from the World Economic Forum, Newsom has officially outlawed the First Amendment. Must watch. Newsom signed bills criminalizing satire if a prosecutor deems to be deceitful. So, this is a very interesting undoing. See, you don't got a fucking constitution here. We've been telling you that too, here at Great Millstone. There is no fucking constitution. You're not free. You're still under rulership.
California Gavin Newsom just signed a bill that bans deep fake videos after this Kamala Harris parody video went viral. That's exactly what they're singling out. I have the articles right here. Elon Musk.
I, Kamala Harris, senior Democrat candidate for president, because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility of the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
They are going after speech.
I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's tight. And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking. The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring. And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
So basically, spoof videos like that, and it was done in humor, but yet it's all true, right? You know, Newsom says it's illegal, right? Well, you can't even get that shit on Facebook anyways. You know, you have to be, you know, you can't really say anything on a lot of these platforms. Now, eventually it's going to get to where we're no longer on the streets, but until that time, yeah, we're going to still keep teaching, right? Climate change zealots now threatening major banks to force them to stop financing meat and dairy animal need operations. The climate change plans is nothing but demolition to the food supply with no transition plan to introduce alternatives. Well, they want you to eat fake meats, you know, Impossible Burgers, etc. The war on the global food supply is ramping up, and major meat and dairy producers are now in the crosshairs. Globalists now threatening major banks like Bank of America, which is a joke, Citibank, and JP Morgan, demanded the name of climate change at their loan departments, stopping financing meat, dairy, and feed operations around the globe. At least 105 climate change organizations come together to pressure on the major banks. So you control the money, you control the supplies, you just wipe them out, because that's your only resource, right? Money is a defense. Now, like everything else, though, this also was in a earthquake-sized blast, you know, rocking Russia's weapons department. So in other words, looks like these weapons are now being used against Russia, as you can see from this video from Dabu 7. So these things did cause an earthquake. So it has escalated. Also, the ground war, it has begun. So long-range weapons being used against Russia, as well as a ground war in Lebanon, are the latest.
This is Dabu 7. What you guys are looking at is a massive mushroom cloud. It came from the strike that took place overnight from Ukraine in Russian territory using drones. It triggered the massive explosion and the after explosions that you've seen in those clips. This is a good bit into Russia, and you can guarantee that Russia is going to see that this is a NATO strike or a Western-backed strike after all this. This is a very important site. This is a Russian weapons stockpile. And some are saying, is there some nuclear in there? Because the mushroom cloud that was emanating from this that you can see here on the left, this is eerily similar to what we've been waiting for in this region. Because the Chinese, when they put the rover in space, in the background on their image, there was a mushroom cloud on Earth, and it made no sense. And when you looked into exactly where this came from, it's in this region, somewhere between Moscow, Ukraine, and Russia, right in that area where the war is going down. This mushroom cloud emanates from off this image for no reason. I have multiple videos on my channel. If you type in mushroom cloud Ukraine covering this, one's got like over 500,000 views. So we've had our eyes on this for about a decade, and now we have a mushroom cloud popping up in this exact area. What this tells me, though, is that they're going to strike back, and they're going to strike back hard. America's about to get caught slipping and sleeping if they don't pay attention. These are huge moves. One of the biggest weapons facilities that they have, this was what they call an earthquake-sized blast. You could see the afterfires. It looked like a hellscape in this region. There's no telling just exactly how many people were in this area, but the depot housed Iskander and the Chachka-U missiles, as well as glide bombs and artillery shells. Could have had something else in there. This was a main targeted spot. If you ask me, Russia should have never let information out about this. Apparently, over the years, they were releasing information about how much they spent to build this facility. It went into full-blown use in 2018, and it's been housing all these weapons. So to let your enemy know where this is at is kind of dumb, but it's been hit. It's been rocked. Absolutely massive. We haven't seen an explosion like this in terms of this war front yet. I mean, outside of using tactical nukes and things like that, you're not going to see an explosion like this of this magnitude. But this is huge. This could really be a defining moment of where this whole thing goes. Here on this whole world stage, World War III going into motion, the whole nine. This is absolutely huge. And Russia is definitely going to respond somehow, some way.
So there you have it. Expect Russia to respond very shortly.
This, a heads up if you don't know. Again, apparently Ukraine struck a good bit into Russia and hit this depot, and it's massive, and it's eerily similar to the warning we've had for a decade about this, or a mushroom cloud in the region. So join me on my live streams.
So there it is, and so you got escalations there. Pretty much, now, that's pretty much unveiled, right? But there's more. Israeli state unleashes heavy strikes on South Lebanon after war plans approved. So pretty much the official war has begun. Lebanon and the Israeli state are at war. Israeli military just announced that IDF chief approved operational plans as part of the continuation of its war of terror. In Israeli states north against Lebanon's Hezbollah, exchanges of fire grew overnight as of Thursday afternoon. Heavier airstrikes on southern Lebanon have been reported, as well as more than 40 rockets fired from Lebanon into the Israeli state. Local media says several Israelis been wounded after a missile fired by Hezbollah hit a Venice in North Israeli state. Says the goal of the new escalated anti-Hezbollah operation has allowed the return of the 80,000 residents of the north who have been forced out of their homes for almost a year. So, extreme escalation. So, yeah, you could say that a lot of this has been escalated. Let's see a little bit of this.
Just a hypothetical. A member of Hezbollah's armed wing, so a Hezbollah fighter, is attacked and injured in one of these pager walkie-talkie attacks at a time when he is not engaged in combat, right? Because this is something that a guest brought up yesterday, and the guest strongly suggested that that was illegal. If the person is targeted when they are not fighting, then that too is illegal, even if they are a fighter. Your thoughts?
I mean, there are certainly various hypotheticals that we can go into, but I think what we saw in Lebanon happen, especially with the photos and videos that were circulating, is we saw, pagers exploding at supermarkets and grocery stores in the streets, with close proximity to civilians, where children had access to the pagers in the bedroom, holding them when they exploded, and children were killed, health workers were killed. So in this particular context, in what we saw on Tuesday, where thousands of pagers simultaneously exploded at the same time, that kind of conduct, which does not discriminate between civilians and military targets, or doesn't take precautions to to ensure that the target is military.
Well, look at Gaza. Do you expect the Israeli state to show mercy to Lebanon when they won't in their own strip?
Ramzi Kais, researcher with Human Rights Watch, joining us from Geneva this hour. We needed answers to those very specific questions. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So that's pretty much Al Jazeera
let's
Live.
recap. The leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah group, Hassan Nasrallah, has just delivered his first televised speech since the device attacks that killed at least 32 people. Nasrallah warned the recent events were a declaration of war and said that Israel had violated red lines by detonating thousands of pagers, radios, and walkie-talkies. He blamed Israel and the U.S. for the attacks that he called a terrorist act and a massacre. Nasrallah also admitted this week's attacks were an unprecedented blow to the resistance movement, but said Hezbollah will not fall. And in northern Israel, 2 Israeli soldiers have been killed. That's according to the Israeli military. We found out
not a very large number, is it?
Local media says one of them was killed by a drone and the other by an anti-tank missile fired by Hezbollah across the Lebanese border. Zain Basravi is joining us live from...
So, that's a little bit there. So you can definitely see that it's official, as Nasrallah, which is the leader of Hezbollah, enemy crossed all red lines, bombings, declaration of war. So, some of the attacks took places in hospitals, pharmacies, marketplaces, commercial shops, and even residential homes, private vehicles, and public roads, where thousands of civilians, including women and children, were present, he added. So, yeah, those are civilian targets. Israelis' war cabinet greenlights offensive war against Hezbollah, sends elite brigade north. Well, what does that mean? That means a ground invasion. They're officially invading southern Lebanon. Many suspected feared this two-day Israeli covert operation to blow up Hezbollah pagers, walkie-talkies, and small electronic devices was preparation for a likely Israeli military ground operation in southern Lebanon. It appears the war is here. According to breaking news wires, I knew that this was going to break out, when I put the video up before. Israeli cabinet gave Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant the authorization to undertake military action against Hezbollah, even if it leads to an all-out war. So far, the second day of explosions across Beirut and Lebanon have led to 20 killed and 450 wounded, but the casualty toll could be much higher. Well, of course, duh. It's going to start looking like Gaza here, too. Because you already know what these devils are capable of. I think you've seen how capable they are. I mean, they're the ones that really are the cause of all the wars, right? 15 Israeli terrorists killed, injured as Hezbollah targets military sites. So there's more here in this video. No sound, so we'll just listen to the music a little bit. Maybe in other parts of the video. Okay, there we go. Yeah, expect this to pick up real soon. With a ground war going into southern Lebanon, well, Lebanon has allies like Syria near them. So, yeah, and you already know that Israeli state has already provoked Syria to war. And Hezbollah also is helping the Syrian Arab Army, so why wouldn't the Syrian Arab Army help Hezbollah, when they are allies? So, pretty much so, it has escalated. FBI reveals that Iran hacked Trump campaign materials and gave them to Biden-Harris. I mean, more horse shit, right? AP is reporting that the FBI uncovered evidence the Iranian hackers stole materials from the Trump campaign in the summer, provided them to what was then the Biden-Harris campaign. So yeah, Iran's hacking the elections, as if they give a shit. You know, because Babylon the Great has always been their enemy anyway, so why would they give a shit about their elections? Heinous crimes. Iran says it will respond to the Israeli attack against their ambassador in Lebanon. So, you know, and they have every right to call it a heinous crime, because it is. Iran tells the United Nations it reserves the right to respond to the recent act of sabotage and terrorism by the rogue Israeli regime in Lebanon after its ambassador was injured in one of the explosions in the country. Iranian ambassador, permanent representative to the United Nations, made the remarks in a letter to the UN Security Council on Wednesday as Israelis' criminal and terrorist acts in Lebanon killed more than 30 civilians and injured thousands more, including the Iran's ambassador to Beirut. The incident happened after wireless communication devices known as pages exploded in different locations across Lebanon. The explosions were first reported in the southern suburbs of Beirut. So, this is escalating, right? You know, and we know what the scriptures tell us, right? That the least of the flock, Amalek, will draw everyone into this war. And, well, this is just the beginning of those things taking place. So we'll get that scripture out, because this one is definitely playing out. As we know, Edom, which is Esau as a whole, but also dealing with its capital, Rome, which the new Rome is Babylon the Great, America. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Most High that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he has proposed against the inhabitants of Teman, you know, which are the wise men, right? Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely you shall make their dwelling places desolate with them. Meaning that it's going to become wholly desolate by way of that nuclear destruction. You know, and we can definitely see that, you know, World War III is around the corner, but they just got to get that central bank digital currency going, right? And both candidates are on board with that. So, hopefully this has been edifying. We're watching it. This still is the hopeful year all prophecy come to pass. So let us say Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Barak Thumb to Yehovah elect. Shalom.